Shalom, shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Akakadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone and rule well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noah's in the gospel rod, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson of the Spirit. Going into the famine, it says dire warning from a farmer of things to come. This is roughly a 6-minute video of the woman pretty much warning of a manufactured famine. As we told, as we've been speaking on judgment and prophecy, that there will be a famine here in the land of Babylon the Great, and it will affect the people of this society greatly, because one thing that this society thrives on is bread and circuses. Okay, bread, circus, and entertainment, which is pretty much a highly lucrative venue here in America. We always go into the concept of, think about on the weekend, right? Saturdays, for example, you got your restaurants, your brunch spots, your clubs, your bars, or your lounges. Those things are ultimately the big breadwinners and the money makers here in America. And when those things shut down, as the scriptures say, that the mirth should be dried up in the land, basically, man, that's when shit really hits the fan, because these American people, they're toxic, okay? And dealing with them is like a drug. It's like a drug. They have like what they call constant dopamine hits of pleasure. And this is why these people need for constant stimulation, okay? Constantly to be stimulated, constantly to be fed, constantly to be in the mindset of murder. But that's ceasing, people gonna lose it, man. Okay, so I'm gonna play minutes of this video and interject here and there, and we'll get a couple of precepts, because the scriptures say the thing that has been shall be, and there's nothing new under the sun. As we know that the famine plagued ancient Egypt, which brought pretty much an ultimate collapse into Egypt, man, and then that's when the Most High brought hell on those Egyptians, man. And it's going to be the same way in this modern day Egypt, because the scriptures say that the Most High will bring plagues as before. Okay, so we can expect a famine any day now, right? As the price of food is going up, all right, due to these tariffs. Now Trump has to put his foot in his mouth and go back and redact on the things which he put, because I think he put 104% tariffs on China, and they retaliated with 84%. And before you know it, now you are in a big fucking trade war, man. You see, so this shit is getting wild. And like I said before in another video, Trump has no leverage. Okay, you have no leverage because the debt is too great. So you don't have no leverage to put on other nations. And damn, they're not China. China has like the top, they say that China was like the third top economy in the world. But honestly speaking, China's economy is better off than America's economy, because China, they produce things, they manufacture, and America does not. Everything from your vehicles to your fucking food is outsourced and is imported here in Babylon. So you have no manufacturing here. So you are already in a lose-lose situation, man. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna play this video, get a couple of precepts, and that'll be that. So here we go. Fair use, by the way, fair use.
Donald Trump rescinded the umbrella of the Department of Agriculture. So basically the umbrella includes SNAP EBT, something called Farm to School breakfast and lunch program, WIC, which is like women and children, small children. They get cereal, they get grain cereal, and they get milk. He rescinded something called FMNP, which are those farmers' checks that they give to senior citizens that are low income. And he's cutting Meals on Wheels, and he's cutting as well as church pantries all across the nation. This is something I know for a fact because I do business.
And I know that for a fact because sometimes we deal with food pantries, and a lot of them are running short on food, man, all right, because they're high in demand. So when they cut the fundings from these things, then it's going to boil down to more of a volunteer perspective, meaning that people just may donate within the community with their own personal funding, which, a lot of times charity groups come together and do so. But a lot of these churches, which is under 501c3, a lot of them have partnerships with government incentives. So when they lose that funding, then there's no more lining up outside on a Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock a.m. to get dried turkey, man. All right, that stuff is getting ready to be a thing of the past.
You can tell your followers how this is going to impact this entire country, because what a lot of people don't understand is, I'm just going to use WIC as an example. Most people think that WIC, which is women, children, and infants, right, was implemented because they want women to get milk. But that is not the case. WIC was originally put into place so that farmers could get subsidies for growing grain. That's why when you are on WIC, you can get all that rice cereal, cornmeal cereal, oatmeal cereal, and things like that. And it was also put into place so that the farmers can get paid for their dairy. That's the reason why when mommies are on WIC, they get so much milk. I mean, jugs and jugs and tons of milk that they don't even know what to do with the milk. So they end up making cheese, they make yogurt. Sometimes they just give it away because they don't know what to do with all that dairy and all that cereal. The fact that they're helping single mothers and mothers who are in need is just like gravy. They're doing it so that the farmers can get paid. And farmers get paid by something called farm subsidies, okay? That is a welfare program, all right? And it's funny because MAGA hates socialism, but they don't mind getting subsidies, which is welfare, as long as it benefits them. Now, because he cut all of these programs, not only are senior citizens going to suffer, farm to school is going to suffer because all the funds are frozen. Farmers are not going to be able to grow enough produce to give to those schools, to give to EBT, to give to WIC, because there's no funding for them anymore. And
so there you go. There's no more funding. So when there's no more funding, then shit dries up, man. Okay, so anyway, let's get a precept real quick. This is the book of Jeremiah 14, and I'm gonna start at verses 10. It says, "Thus says the Lord unto this people, thus have they loved to wander, they have not refrained their feet. Therefore the Lord doth not accept them, and he will not remember their iniquity and pray and visit their sins." All right, and even though this is talking about Israel, the whole inhabitants of America, of Babylon, have offended Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So this does not just constitutes to you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, though you will be greatly affected by it the most, perhaps. But overall, this is going to be on a societal scale, because like I mentioned earlier, the bread and circuses in America, man, that's how they thrive. Okay, keep the people distracted by sports, entertainment, also by food, finger foods, and $5 shots of Patron. Shit, a nigga's in heaven, man. Because that's all Jake care about is serpentine. They don't give a shit about nothing else. And it says here, "Then says Yahweh to me, pray not for this people for their good." And we're not praying for Babylon. We're not praying for this place to heal. Like some Christians, they say, "Oh, we got to pray for our nation." Man, fuck Babylon. All right, we pray that this motherfucker go down quicker than what it is, man. All right, because this is a sinking ship. The Titanic hit the iceberg and you're literally sinking, man. All right, and the lifeboats are already preserved for the elect. Rest of you people, you getting ready to just drown in the damn fire, man. The lake of fire when those missiles hit, because the missiles will come soon. And it says here, "While they fast, I will not hear their cry, and when they offer burnt offerings and oblation," which oblation is a drink offering. It says here, "I will not accept them, but I will consume them by the sword and by famine and by pestilence." So all these complement one another. The famine brings the pestilence brings the more pestilence, famine, because when you have a bunch of dead bodies and a bunch of people rotting out, that's gonna bring in diseases, and diseases bring in animals, and then that brings in more turmoil than death, man. Okay, like, and the Lord showed me yesterday, man. Matter of fact, all last week, the gym that I go to and train, man, when you're crossing over the bridge, it was like a smell of death, man. And I'm asking the people, I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, what is that? They said, oh, that's the sewer. And sometimes because you got to cross over the bridge to get to the water, you got to cross over the water to get to the other side of KC. And sometimes when the seasons change, the water flips up and turns tide, and all that shit they're putting in the river, all that aqua life that's dying in the rivers, all the bio and stuff that they pump into the water, it literally smelled like death, man, in the air. And I was like, golly. So just imagine when you have millions of dead bodies rotting, and then the temperatures are high. This is gonna be bad out. It's to the point you ain't even gonna want to step outside, man. That's how bad it's getting ready to get up out of here. And I don't think people understand the reality or the gravity of what the hell is getting ready to come. And it says here, then said I, Lord Yahweh, behold, the prophet saying to them, ye should not see the sword, neither shall ye have famine, but I will give you a sure peace in this place. And this is the spirit that a lot of you Israelites are coming in, all right, because you teach peace. Like this guy Nate, he's talking about going over to some island off in China, some goddamn where, and trying to set up a camp, man. Look, them people don't want you over there, man. And there's gonna come a time that you're gonna do that and engage in that uncircumspect act, and you gonna end up getting what's due to you, because you already got ran out of Kenya last week. So what more do you want? But it says, then the Lord said it to me, the prophets prophecy lies in my name, which they don't even use the name. I sent them not, neither have I commanded them, neither spake unto them. For they prophesy unto you a false vision and divination, and a thing of naught, and deceit of their heart. All right, so the Lord is getting ready to fuck y'all niggas up, man. All right, so anyway, let me play a little bit more of this. And
something that a lot of people don't know is that when you have a farm, you have to plan one season ahead. So these people are not getting their subsidy check, which is welfare. So they are in arrears. They don't have the money. They've already spent thousands upon thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars buying lumber, buying farm animals, buying everything that they're going to need, and getting contractors to come over to their property, but they cannot have access to their funds, so their funds are frozen. Now, what this is going to end up doing, of course, is it's going to be like a humongous crash, because one system is completely dependent on the other. And it's the exact same thing with the big name commercial food companies like Sodexo. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a company called Sodexo. I think they might have been bought out by Cisco. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. Sodexo also requires the farmers to work with them. They actually hire farmers to give them food. And this is what people rely on, like in a hospital system. The food comes from these major companies. And when the farmers are not getting their checks and they can't do what they need to do, these other corporations are not going to be able to feed people. So it's going to have a horrendous snowball effect.
And all that will be done. All that wouldn't be a problem if people was allowed to farm and have their own land and manufacture their own shit. This wouldn't be a problem, man. But see, you got a devil that's totally drawn up, that totally took over and dried up every goddamn thing. Now, this is the reason why you have to depend on big box stores, man, that's selling a bunch of Frankenstein foods. Because the average store only has 3 or 4 days supply of food, tops. And when a shutdown comes, that goes almost immediately, because people are going to be fighting over that shit, man. Okay, people are going to be fighting over dry boxes of, what you call that, dry cereal, cornflakes. No sugar, no nothing. You remember we used to buy a box of cornflakes? It used to come in that big ass white box and it had that green bird on it. And you put like a half a pound of sugar in that shit. And fucking cereals, you still scooping up sugar and milk out the corners and eating that shit, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's getting ready to get real bad. So this is Pharaoh's dream. Genesis 41:1, and it says, and it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed a dream, and behold, it stood by the river. And behold, that came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in the meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. Okay, so this is breaking down the 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, which the 7 years of famine made the 7 years of plenty look like child's play. Okay, the 7 years of famine totally out-mitigated the 7 years of plenty. You know, and we were in the years of plenty. Now things are diminishing, man. Okay, manufacturing is cut down. Hell, the product is cheap as hell right now. You know, cars are nothing but recycled metal. So you gotta have a motherfucker in the shop every goddamn month. It's a never-ending thing. And it says here, so Pharaoh awoke and slept and dreamed a second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came upon one stalk, rank and good, and behold, 7 thin ears, and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them, and the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And the Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. Okay, and I remember years ago I had a dream similar to this. I was in this cornfield, and all the corn in the field was like murky, like, you know how like that wet creamy corn is. It was like literally, it was like rotting off the vines, and it had like this white shit coming out of it. And it was like this big cornfield, and the corn was just dried up and fucking dead, man. And I was like, wow, that must be representing the famine that's getting ready to come. You know, because hey, when famine comes, people are gonna lose it, man. Because hey, people gonna want to feed their kind, people gonna want to feed their loved ones, and they're not gonna have the ability to do so because it's, you know, things are pretty much sewn up. You know, so that's just pretty much where we at with it.
On our society, we are not going to be able to recover from this. So now, here is what the truck drivers are now saying. I don't know anything about truck driving, so I'm just going to give you the simplistic of it. So when a truck driver is called by dispatch to go pick up a load, it's called a load, right? That load has to be weighed, and I think it goes by the ton. I have been told in my private meetings that the loads are getting lighter and lighter and lighter.
Yeah, because shit is cutting down, man. You know, you got some guys that are like, well, look, you go down there to Atlanta and pick up 1 case. You know, it ain't worth it, man. You know, depends on what kind of money. Now they offering extra money to go down there for 1 load, then, you know, that may be worth it. But even then, it's just like, okay, that's 1 job. Several loads require you to come there and back. For 1 load, 1 pallet, that ain't gonna cut it, man. So they gonna have to double the pay. And then some people just gonna miss it all together because a lot of people got their own trucking companies, and ultimately they don't want to bite the cost, you know, gas, all that shit, you know. So anyway, and it says here, and it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that can interpret it. And it was more like a vision. It says, then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. But Pharaoh was wroth with his servants and put me in the ward and the captains of the guards, both me and the bakers. And we dreamed a dream in one night. And we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of this dream. Now they going into how Joseph interprets it. So we're going to go down. And it says, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment and came into Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said it to Joseph. It says here, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard to say of thee that thou can understand the dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered, saying, it is not me, but Yahweh should give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat flesh, well favored, and they fed in the meadow. It says, and behold, the other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean flesh, such as I never saw in the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 kind, fat kind, which that goes into the cattle being famished. Like you go into kind is like cattle, right? And it says that when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as the beginning. So I woke, and I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up of one stalk full of good, and behold, 7 ears withered thin and blasted with the east wind and sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. The 7 good ears. Hold on, it's locked here. Yep, it says here, Salaki, I got distracted. It says, and the 7 ears devoured the 7 good ears, and I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that can declare it to me. And Joseph said it to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one, but the Most High have shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. And the 7 good kind are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years, and the dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kind that came up, it says that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty years blasted with the east wind should be 7 years of famine. Okay, now going down here, it says that shall also arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty should be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and all the famine should be consumed in the land. All right, and that's because of their freaking wickedness, man. All right, so it's no different here in America. Yahweh Shai is getting ready to destroy this place. He's getting ready to cut the staff of bread, like the scriptures say, the stale bread. Matter of fact, let me pull that real quick. Staff of bread from Judah. I think that's Jeremiah 3. Staff of bread also is in Ezekiel as well. Psalms 105 and 16. It says, moreover, he called for a famine upon the land, and he broke the whole staff of bread, meaning a famine, meaning all the manufacturing of restaurants, all that. Eventually, they're not going to have any food, right? Isaiah 3 and 1. And it says here, for the Lord, behold, the Lord of hosts doth take away from Jerusalem and Judah the stay and the staff of it. It says the stay and the staff and the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water, man. Okay? Ezekiel 5 and 16, it says, when I shall send upon them the evil arrows of famine, which should be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, and I will increase the famine upon you and will break your staff of bread. I mean, your food source, man. That's when shit really gonna hit the fan. Once the food is taken away from these people, that's when people are gonna really start to realize that, wait a minute, something's off here. But even then, according to the book of 2nd Esdras, they're still not gonna repent, man. Okay, because this is the book of 2nd Esdras 15, and I'm gonna start at verses 10. It says, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter, and I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, which is America. But I will bring them out with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof, man. Perfect. 2nd Esdras 16 and 19. Matter of fact, 18. It says the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. Okay, because famine will lead to death. The beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, and the beginning of evils. But what should I do when these evils come? Question. But behold, famine and plague and tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for a minute. But for all these things, they should not turn from their wickedness, nor always be mindful of their scourges. All right. Verse 21, it says, behold, victory should be so good cheap upon the earth, that they would think themselves to be in good case. But even then shall the evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. All right. So that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shai. God's will, you will edify. To the next lesson. Shalom. Fuck.
And what that means in layman's terms is that there's just not a lot of food that's being distributed throughout food pantries, schools, neighborhoods, hospital systems, etc. So even the truck drivers are saying that something is definitely wrong because they're not getting a lot of loads.